Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kelly Jessup, and I'm the Assistant Director for Digital Learning at Yale School of Management, Executive Education. Hope you're doing well, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us for this introduction to Yale's CPWA prep course called Wealth Management Theory and Practice. This is one of two financial certification programs we offer. It's modeled after our successful CIMA online program, which is Investment Management Theory and Practice. Our program director, Jim Dobbs, was instrumental in creating both programs, so he knows them inside and out. Please engage with us during this webinar and don't hesitate to ask questions. Jim is very knowledgeable, and this is your opportunity to pick his brain. We may hold questions, but we will do our best to answer all of them by the end. To ask questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And if you wouldn't mind, please using the chat function for any technical issues, and we'll try to resolve those for you. So now I'd like to introduce our program director. Jim Dobbs is CPWA certified. He's also CFP and CIMA certified. He was a financial advisor for 25 years and ran his own RIA practice before retiring from it to work full-time in his financial education company. Jim has worked with different certifying bodies and universities for the last 20 years, helping to build and manage financial certification programs. More importantly, though, Jim has had extensive experience with the Investments in Wealth Institute. He personally helped create the CPWA certification and has served IWI in many roles, including as chair of IWI's Technical Advisory Board. Jim directed and taught in the classroom version of this CPWA course for many years and has now partnered with us to bring his expertise and enthusiasm to Yale and in turn to you. You'll see he's a passionate guy and he's committed to success. He measures his success based on yours. Please welcome Jim Dobbs.
Well, thank you very much. Can you see and hear me okay, Kelly?
Sure can.
Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, this is your time, so I'll piggyback on what Kelly said. Feel free to type in any questions you've got about the certification or our program or the process. We're going to cover a lot of ground in the next hour, give or take. Depends on how many questions you've got, but keep them coming in. One heads up. So sometimes Kelly will wait a little bit on your question, especially if she knows I'm going to hit that particular item or question in a few slides. So be patient there. But what I can promise you is we'll be around to answer all the questions. Even if we have to go over, we'll try to have a little bit of a free-for-all at the end with questions. But go ahead and type those in now. She can get them all queued up. That'll help us get through more questions more efficiently. So yeah, what we want to do is just talk about the certification a little bit on the front end, and then we'll talk about our program so you can have a good idea of the expectations, time to study, you know, what you would be studying and how you would be studying it, all those kinds of things, just so you can get a better feel for if this is the right program for you. Look, if it is, we want you to come and be part of this Yale program. If it's not, though, we want you to go find the right program fit for you. First note of clarification is we are not the certifying body. So at Yale, we deliver the required registered education course that IWI has approved for this particular program. Ours is different than the others, as you would imagine. And we also have test prep in our program that does not cost extra at Yale. It's all part of the fee. That's a little bit of a difference between us and the other programs. But IWI, Investments in Wealth Institute, they are your certifying body. So if you haven't been to their website, here it is. Well, this is just a screenshot off their website, and the website URL is at the top, of course. But I would get familiar with them because they are going to receive your candidacy application. They're going to be watching you through the process. They're going to confer the certification on you, and then you're going to pay your ongoing fees, and turn in your continuing education hours to them every 2 years to maintain your certification. So just want you to be clear of that separation. If you weren't, they've got a lot of great things on their website. A lot of it's actually free. The one thing I'll point your attention to is under CPWA, go to the third-party research and analysis. And there's some really good information on who CPWAs are compared to CFPs, compared to those who don't hold either. How much do all of them make? You know, what are assets under management and production levels and that kind of thing. I think that can be very helpful, not only to help you understand if you're in the right place or not for this certification, but also just in case you still need to get your boss or superior to sign off on this, either to be able to do the program, use the marks, and or maybe even reimburse you. So jump on their website, spend some time there. I think it will pay off for you. All right. If you don't know, and you wouldn't if you hadn't already been to IWI's website, probably, they're offering scholarships. We don't have any discounts or scholarships or anything like that for this program at Yale. That being said, IWI does. And so on the left-hand side of the screen, if you see anything in there that makes you think, oh, well, I might qualify. I personally, I would think it's worth 10 or 15 minutes to fill out their online, no obligation application. If for no other reason, the scholarship size amounts. I mean, they start at $1,000. So that's pretty significant. I think that's worth 10 or 15 minutes. And I would encourage you to jump on their website. You can either go straight to this URL, or you can just jump onto their homepage and type in scholarships in the search, and their page will come up. So do that if you haven't. That could pay off. All right, let's talk a little bit about the certification. Don't want to spend too much time on that. I assume most of you are familiar with the CPWA certification. That's why you're here. You're just trying to pick a school, a path to certification. But for those of you who are not, CPWA is Certified Private Wealth Advisor. Yes, I did help create this certification 15-ish years ago, something like that. And all of us on the committee, except for one, I think, we were all CFPs. We all had advanced practices, and we were all serving high net worth clients. And the question kept coming up at the committee level. And finally, the IWI's board at the time said that we need to go ahead and create a certification, because where is the education for you advisors, CFP or not, who have a client selling a 10 or 20 or $30 million business, or their net worth's 15 million, but 10 to 12 million's tied up in concentrated stock positions, or options, executive options, those kind of things. And CFP really wasn't created for that. It's a much broader curriculum. And there are a few programs out there that do get into that level, but most of them don't. It just wasn't really designed for that. So that's how CPWA came about. It's a more narrowly focused curriculum and exam for the challenges and solutions, or at least potential solutions, for working with your high net worth client. And for sake of argument, let's just say high net worth is maybe $5, $10, $20 million in family worth and up. Doesn't mean this wouldn't help if you only had a few of those and your average client size was $1 or $2 million. And this is a little bit aspirational because you're just now moving into the high net worth space. That's fine as well. But CFP is broad, and it's not very deep in most of the programs. That's not a knock. I am a CFP designee, and I love that certification. I think it does what it's supposed to do in our industry. But that's the reason it takes, I would argue that's the biggest reason it takes 18 months to get through CFP versus about 6 months for most of our CPWA candidates once they start into our program. There's just a lot more to cover in CFP land, as it were, than there is in CPWA. But again, we're going super deep into the technical, into the tax, into some of the legal in CPWA, because when we're at family meetings, or at least I retired about 5 years ago, but when I was in private practice for 27 years, we had to meet with the attorneys and the CPAs and the other professionals all the time. And so you really need to have a handle on those things, even though I was never making an official tax recommendation, never doing compilations. I wasn't doing their legal documents, their wills, their trusts, etc. But I needed to have a really good handle on that because we were working with those other professionals all the time. So that's in part what this certification is meant to do. CIMA, on the other hand, is just investments. That's the sister program that we have at Yale. That one is also accredited at the highest level for professional certifications, as is CPWA. It's one of the reasons we offer these two, because they are accredited at that highest level. CFA, also just investments. They've added some wealth management, but that's a whole nother story. We could talk about that later. But it's basically investments, and that's the deepest dive on investments. That's for any of you who want to become an institutional portfolio manager or securities analyst, I would highly recommend CFA. CIMA is more for those of us who are financial planners, financial advisors, investment advisors, working a lot with investments. Okay, so hopefully that helped a little bit and didn't muddy the water, but if you have any questions, just go ahead and type those into Kelly and she can bring those up in a couple of minutes. All right, prereqs on CPWA bachelor's degree, or if you don't have a bachelor's degree from an accredited university, any of these certifications, CPA is really a license, not a certification, but that or any of these certifications would suffice at IWI in lieu of, instead of your bachelor's degree. So CIMA, RMA, CFA, CFP, CHFC, and then again, CPA. But I could be wrong, but I think you have to have a bachelor's degree to get a CPA, but maybe it wasn't always that way. Anyway, pass background check. So for most of you, it'll be your U4, your FINRA background document that they'll pull up. If you're in a bank or trust, there are some other ways they can do a background check if you don't have a U4, but you will need to pass that to be accepted into CPWA candidacy. And you've got to have 5 years of experience in financial services. Doesn't have to be wealth management, doesn't have to be financial planning. It could be investments, it could be insurance, it could be estate planning, it could be tax. All of those would count. And you don't have to have that when you start. It is, so that one's a prerequisite to the certification, not entering the process. So for example, we do have a handful of people in our program. They don't have 5 years experience yet, but they've got their bachelor's degree, they passed their background check, and they want to work towards through the education and pass their exam. And then once they do that, and actually we've got a couple who have done all of that, including pass the exam, they just can't use the marks yet until they hit their 5-year work experience anniversary. So that will be a big day for them, but that is possible. I don't always recommend that. There are some situations where I think it's fine, but this is an advanced certification, a baseline of financial planning, personal financial foundations is expected. And so for some of you, if you don't have CFP or CHFC or haven't been in the business for a while, this may be getting ahead a little bit. Again, I don't want to pour cold water on your aspirations, but if you're thinking, well, I might be in that category, go ahead and I'll share my email and contact information a couple of times. Go ahead and just shoot me an email. Maybe we can have a 5 or 10-minute phone call to kind of talk that through. All right, a couple more pages and we'll see if there are early questions. Here's the process. It's not complicated. Submit a certification program application. And you do that to IWI because they are your certifying body. They're going to run your background check. They're going to do all the analysis. And if you are accepted, it takes about a week. They'll say, hey, Jim, hey, Kelly, Sally has been approved as a CPWA candidate. And on the application, on the online application, they chose Yale as the educational provider. So once we get that information and they reach out 3 times a week to us on that, then we will get you in the process. We process those on Wednesdays of every week. And then we send out log-on emails on Fridays of every week. So all of that to say, just to set expectations right, takes IWI about a week to get through your application. And then it could take us a few days to a week on top of that. So you're looking at about 2 weeks from start to finish. Start being submit your application, finish meaning you're logging into our course for the first time. Once you pass our course, and I'll talk about the course and what you need to do to pass it, then you'll study for your exam, your certification exam. You'll do all of that on our platform. That was one of the ideas, is just put it all together and make it simple for candidates. No need to overcomplicate this. Just put the course and the study material all in one program. We have to divide them out, as I'll show you in a minute. But you'll do the course, you'll study for exam, go sit for and pass your exam. As you'll see on the IWI website, pass rates for this exam for us are about 75 to 80%. You can look on IWI's website for the most recent numbers. Is it because we have such great material and great instructors? Well, yes. But I think it's also because when it gets to test prep, we're really, really clear on what you should do and what you shouldn't do. We don't have copies of the test, of course. And there are certainly limitations on what we can do to figure out what's on the test, but we take that very seriously. The other reason I think there's a pretty high pass rate is most candidates in CPWA programs are pretty experienced and have, some lower level designations maybe, and or CFP and CHFC or something like that. So some of this is review and they're ready to get into the more advanced concepts. And I think that helps with pass rates. And then once you pass your exam, then you just do some licensing paperwork, you pay your initial certification fee, and off you go. All right, let's do one more page and then we'll see if we've got early questions. So here's the core topics outline. There's a 5-pager that's color-coded with exam weights and that kind of thing. Shoot me an email if you want me to send that to you. You can get it off of our website or IWI's website, but it may be just easier for you to send me an email. I'll send you this, the long form version and the candidate handbook, just so you can have those handy to reference. That being said, I think this tool is very, very helpful if you're on the fence of, is CPWA the right certification for me, or is it right for me now? And I would recommend you go through the whole 5-page document, line by line. There are 500 topics. There's actually over 500. Just read it line by line. It may take you 5 or 10 minutes. And then just keep asking yourself as you go through those items, will knowing more about this help me in my practice now? Will knowing more about this, being able to implement this, will that help me attract new clients? Will that help me serve my existing clients even better? I think if you keep answering in the affirmative as you go through the 5 pages, then it'll be like, okay, at the very least, this content is right for me. This is going to help me move to the next level or turn the corner. But, if like half of it, like not even half of it is, there for you, and in terms of helping you in that way, then I would say no. I think it's a great certification. And obviously it'd be nice to be affiliated with Yale, but your time is valuable. The money is one thing, but time, energy, effort, opportunity cost, that's a big price to pay. So, and you're going to be spending probably a couple hundred hours getting this certification, as I'll talk about in a minute. So make sure the content is right for you. So if this has piqued your interest, just shoot me an email. I'll get you that document. All right, as you're staring at this, I'll reach out to Kelly and see if we've got any early questions.
All right, it looks like for now, just one. Okay, I think it was actually just answered, but I'll just ask it again for the group in case anyone has the same question. Could you just say one more time how to get access to that 5-page list of topics? You betcha. So there you go, jim@dobbseducation.com or jim.dobbs@yale.edu. Just shoot me an email, and tonight or tomorrow morning, I will get you a copy of the longer version. Obviously, this is just a quick and dirty look at the major domains, as they call them. But I really want you to look at the long version of that, because when you look at the 500 line items, that's what you're going to be studying week in and week out. That's what you really need to make sure hits the mark. Okay, I think we're good to move on. All right, let's keep it going. So this is from IWI's website, and this kind of ties back to what I mentioned before. I think they've got some great information on their website about the certification, kind of nuts and bolts, and then also insights on who is a CPWA certificant, and where do they work, what's their role, what's their job responsibilities and tasks, and those kind of things. And again, some of this is actually third-party material. ITA Group, Cerulli, maybe one more that does these kind of surveys. And I think that will help you. Now, that being said, I'll just hit the high points here. I don't want to oversell the certification. That being said, higher compensation is factual. You can look at the third-party information they have. CPWAs do on average, make more than the CFPs, and those who don't have CFP or CPWA make less than the CFPs, as you would imagine. So that's pretty intuitive, maybe even a logical. Certainly, you're going to be able to differentiate yourself from competition.
It's a very, very competitive field that we deal with, especially as you move from mass affluent into the high net worth space. So I think anything you can do to put yourself ahead in that regard is a good thing. Expert instruction, I'll show you an instructor list, or while I'm babbling on here, you can just look on our website and see the full list of instructors. We have combination of Yale professors, of course, and practitioners. I'm a big firm believer in these kind of programs that you want a combination of both, because they both have unique skill sets to help teach, including the application of these concepts as well. And then relevant content, again, that 5-pager is going to tell you what you need to know there. The one that I get most excited about, and Kelly probably gets tired of hearing me ramble about this, but it's really true. And I hear it from you guys in phone calls and emails, and at the conferences I go to every year. It's your confidence. It's the confidence that you're going to have in going through this material, just knowing that you really nailed some important things down. Some of it was review, sure, but you learned a lot of new content. In CFP land, I remember going through trusts and, like the major types of trusts and a few types of trusts like ILETs that were really popular and whatever. Well, you're going to go through 24 different types of trusts in the CPWA curriculum, and we're going to drill down pretty deep on the technical, the tax, the legal, the asset protection related issues in each one of those. So it's just a different level in that regard. And I love the fact that I hear you guys come up to me after and go, yeah, I don't have stress sitting in those annual meetings with attorneys and CPAs anymore. I just don't, because like a lot of times I can tell I know as much or maybe even more than they do, at least in certain areas. And another value add that I can give to my clients is, and I certainly experienced this myself, was not all, but a lot of clients get a little shy in asking the CPA or the attorney questions in that kind of meeting. And so I just say, well, just take your notes, ask what you want, you feel comfortable. And then afterwards, we'll go back to my office or your house or to dinner, and we'll debrief. We'll just go through your notes in a more casual, kind of relaxed kind of way. And I'll answer those questions for you. So I think that's one of the big payoffs with this particular program. Okay, speaking of the program, the goals and objectives of your provider, in this case it's Yale, I think are really important. If you're going to give up 100 to 200 hours or maybe more of your life to go through this material and get your certification, I think you want to know what the provider is trying to help you with. These are the 3 biggies for us. We're going to go through all 500 plus topics. Certainly there are over 1,000 when we count the topics and the subtopics. And we're going to cover them in a combination of ways, some at the course level, which I'll explain in a minute, and some at the test prep level. Once you get to test prep, it's just all about test prep. And so sometimes we're going to cover some of those 500 plus topics in one and not the other. Number 2 is the one, as I mentioned before, I get so excited about this one, is it's harder to measure, but it's really, really important that you're able to take material out and put it into your practice right now. Like even before you complete the program and pass the exam and get your certification, I want to know that you're able to plug these new tools and strategies, this new analysis into your practice as you go along. That's huge, huge, huge. That will pay for the certification over and over again. And I think you can do this even before you complete the process. But that being said, I was in your shoes one time, and maybe not necessarily in this one because I helped create this one. But all the certifications I did, especially in practice back in the day, I was running my practice. I have 4 kids. I was busy, and it was just like, got to find time to study and find time to focus. And as you get closer to your exam date, I get it. It's all going to be about the exam. Like, okay, I'll come back and look at all the great material that I just studied for practice later, but just help me get to the finish line, help me get through this exam. So that's what we'll do. We'll start kind of big, and we'll be even practice or application based. And then as you work your way into test prep and towards your exam, it is just all about efficiency at that point. All right, as you can imagine, with an online program, flexibility is going to be one of the most important components to a program like this. So much so, after the beta testing we decided we don't even want this to be synchronous. We want it to be completely asynchronous. You're going to study when you want. You're even going to study where you want, because it's open. We've allowed you to download and print and save whatever you want. Just don't share it with anybody. That's the Yale policy. But you can certainly download all of this to your hard drive. And I'll come back to that in a minute, because there's a little backdoor way, if you run out of time, to rely on that as part of the process to get you through to the finish. But all of this is on demand because it's asynchronous. So you don't show up on Tuesday or Thursday night. You don't have to have 3 lessons done in 2 weeks or whatever. You're going to move fast or slow, whatever your preference is and whatever your schedule allows you to do. We have candidates move through in a month or less, actually. And we have, now I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, because I really want you to soak up everything you can, because who knows the next time you'll have access to all this great material. And I really want you to benefit as much as you can. And then maybe newer candidates, or candidates with learning challenges or disabilities, or that just want to go slower. Maybe they take 6, 9, even the whole 12 months that they have access to the material. So you're just going to move through the way you want to move through. I don't want people who are going fast to stress out those that want to go slower, and those that are going slower, I don't want them to frustrate the ones who are trying to speed up and get through on a fast track basis. So you're going to do it however you want. All right, this is a big one. Study time expectations. For most, I think there are reasonably fat tails, but the mean is pretty firm, I would say, having done this 7 years, something like that, for CPWA at Yale. 100 to 200 hours is very, very normal. Most clearly are going to fall in that range. That being said, like I mentioned before, we have some candidates rush through in 3, 4, 6 months, whatever. I'm pretty sure those didn't take 100 hours. And not that everybody can do that, but we do have some that do. Occasionally, though, I would say once, 2 times, 3 times a year, I hear somebody say, yeah, I didn't know it at the time, but I'm in the over 500 hour camp, Jim. I'm, and as you know, I'm in my 10th month or my 11th month or whatever. And yeah, I've crossed that 500 hours. So that happens too, but that makes sense because IWI only has certain prereqs to get into a program like this. So we have a wide range of experience level. It's another reason to do the type of program where we don't put you in groups, because I don't want you to get stuck in a group you don't want to be in, if you want to think about it that way. So it all depends on your experience, your knowledge, your study habits, study skills, test taking skills to some degree. I would say this test is harder than the CFP on a question by question basis, meaning the questions are deeper, they're more technical, and they're more applied than what we all saw on our CFP comprehensive exams back in the days. That being said, there's just a shorter test and it tests over less material. That's the difference. So a little bit harder in difficulty, just not as long and not as grueling in that kind of way. All right, some nuts and bolts here. Program fees, $72.95. That assumes you do not get any scholarships or discounts. You would take that off of the $72.95. What they would prefer IWI would prefer you to do is fill out the scholarship application online first, see if you get a scholarship, and then do your application for candidacy, because there's a little place on there when it comes to paying where they say, okay, well, put in your scholarship or your discount code if you have one. While I'm thinking about money, I think they do have a payment plan. I don't think it's very extensive, but you may be able to spread this out at least for some months. Talk to IWI about that. They control that whole side of the process. That being said, let me give you a name. You may want to write this down. I'll give you her name and email. She's one of our reliable resources over at IWI when we have questions as well. It's Ashlyn Costley, Ashlen, Ashlyn Ashlen, Costley. Last name is Costley, or email Costley, Costley at i-w.org. Yeah, reach out to her with questions on if they have a payment plan or the scholarships or anything else that you want to know about CPWA. She's really good about getting back to you. At least she has been for us. So we don't have any ongoing registration dates or cohorts in that way. As I mentioned, you're just going to start whenever it works for you. So here's an example of where it would not be a good time to start. You're in a practice that does, comprehensive planning, and you're heavily tax-based, including compilations, actually filing the returns. Yeah, I'm thinking January, February, March, probably not an ideal time to start because you're in the weeds. And here's a good time to start. When you look out on over your schedule for the next 3 to 6 months, if it doesn't look any worse than any other time, then I think it's probably a good time. And I know that, when you got all kinds of clients like I did too, can't always predict when a client's going to call up with good news or bad news or unexpected news, just unpredictable. But I think timing's important because as you see here, you have access for the $72.95, you have access to our material, our platform for 365 days. Now, if you get in a bind, this is what I alluded to earlier, what you would do is just pass the course, which I'm going to show you the requirements in a minute for, and then just download all the test prep. As long as you don't share it with anybody, you could just study off your own hard drive to take and pass the certification exam if you ran out of time in your 1 year and you're like, okay, well, I did finish the class, but not quite ready to test. Okay, just download all the test prep. Even though you lose access to the Yale program, you'll be just fine. You can buy extra access for it's between $2,000 and $2,500. I forget exactly what it is for another year. But if you're on a budget and money's tight, this would be the workaround for that. All right, hopefully that helps. Yeah, strong market share and pass rate. Again, just go to the IWI website. You can go to the CPWA certification tab, drill down to the exams details, and you can get the most recent numbers there. All right, now on to the course and the test prep, and then we'll stop again for questions. So we've divided it up. Again, as I mentioned, we want everything on one platform, so it's really easy and convenient for you. But we do have to separate by IWI rule, the course and the test prep. But I like that anyway, because I really don't want you even thinking about the test when you're at the course level. Think of that as part A or part 1, the course level. I just want you soaking it all up. I mean, you've got great instructors, Toby Moskowitz, Richard Joyner, Michael Kitsis, John Nersessian, Steve Siegel, the list goes on and on. I just want you watching these videos on demand, taking notes, and passing some tests after you watch those lecture videos. That's all I want you focused on. Just soak up as much as you can. We'll get to test prep at the next level or the next phase. You do have access to about a 2,500 page library that I've put together over the years that goes into these topics, these concepts, the law, the tax issues, those kind of things in much more detail than we can do in about 30-something hours of lecture. So if you need more explanation or you need a deeper dive, you've got an exhaustive library to go to. And then, as I mentioned, you're going to take some tests after you go through the 11 sections. There's one test after each section. It's not proctored. It's just there on your platform. You can take as many times as you need to. We just need some kind of assessment to give you a certificate that you passed this course at Yale. Even though it's not for academic credit, we still need a way to measure your work. And these online tests, the tests are about 12 to 30 questions each, so they're not real long. Again, you can just take them as many times as you need to, but we've got a formula for how to get through the course in the most effective and efficient way, in case you forget what I just said. Okay, so once you've passed your 11 tests, we get an email notification. Hey, Jim has passed all the tests in the Yale course, and so he's now eligible to schedule his certification exam. So we send that email to IWI, same or next day, so they can move you along in the process as well. We will send your Yale certificate. Kelly and crew do that. And we batch those, I think, right now on a monthly basis. So you'll get that certificate, even though you haven't passed the certification exam. Those are two separate things. There's passing the course, there's passing the certification exam to get your certification. And then and only then, once you pass this course, will the test prep populate for you. You'll see it in your platform. You just won't be able to access it until you pass all your tests. And then here's some I think important items discussing the test prep. The material, again, is the same, comes right off that 5-page topic list. It's just, we're going to go more into certain areas that we think are more likely to be tested. There are hours of video from me going through the 500 topics, skipping over the ones that are not highly tested, spending more time on those that are, just to give you an idea so you can narrow down your focus. Like, you know, you're taking a 4-hour exam. I think it's 135 questions right now. 15 are beta unscored items, so 120 scored roughly. But you got 500 something topics and 1,000 counting subtopics. Man, you just need a way to bring it down to something more reasonable so it doesn't take you forever to get ready for this test. So that's what those videos and slides, exhaustive slides, are meant to do. And then you're going to have practice questions after those, all leading up to it's going to be a little bit of overkill at that point, but a mock exam, a timed mock exam. I learned a long time ago that you don't want to just create mock exams for an exam like this, because people are just going to rely on those questions for memory and recall. You need them to get them into the weeds. You need them to go through explanations and examples and lots of different questions covering a lot of different ground before they really even get to questions, certainly before they get to a mock exam. So been doing this for about 20 years now, 19 years, CFP and CPWA and some others. That's certainly the best way to go on these more challenging certifications exams. Speaking of that, I'll throw out one other little soundbite here. This is going to be way harder than your securities exams, right? CFP is harder, CFA is harder, FRM is harder, KIA, CPWA, SEMA, a couple of others. These are just more challenging exams, and you know they have a reputation, and part of that is because they have very rigorous exams. So whatever study formula you and I used for our securities exams, just kind of throw that out the window. That's not going to work for these. You need a deeper comprehension and understanding. Memory and recall will not get it done here. So this is going to hurt a little more in that way, but it'll all pay off in your practice and with your clients as well. Don't mean to scare you off, but I just want you to be realistic as you come in. Okay, you can look at this lady. We always kind of joke about it. She seems so happy. I don't know if like she just took her test or she's, you know, confident that she's going to pass, but you can stare at her while Kelly lets me know if we've got any more questions.
Yes, we do have a couple. So in terms of the IWI certification exam, are there specific timing windows for that, or is it available anytime you're ready to take it? How does that typically work?
Great question. It's available all the time. So the stipulation, of course, is you have to have passed a registered education course. That's kind of the gate, and then that opens up, and then you're allowed to schedule your exam. Good question.
Okay. And is there a database anywhere that's available of CPWA holders? So for example, if someone wanted to know who's holding a CPWA in their state, is that information available?
Yeah, good one. And we don't get that one very often. Go onto IWI's website, and you're probably gonna have to do search because they just changed it back in January. They just did a full change of their website layout. Go search for a SEMA or search for a CPWA, search for a designee. There is a database for all three of them: SEMA, CPWA, RMA is their newer retirement certification. And you can look up in that database by, well, you wouldn't want to do first name, but last name, and then city or state. So they have a few different search functions you can use. Good question.
Hey, it looks like there's a couple people that have their hands up, so we don't usually open mics during these. So if you can submit your questions either by Q&A or chat, either is fine. We're happy to answer them.
All right, and while you're waiting on those, let me just say real fast about the exam. So there it is, 135 questions, 10 beta non-scored items. So 125 are going to be actually scored. Of course, you won't know what the 10 beta unscored items are, just like CFP and CFA and the others that do that. 4 hours to pass the test, all multiple choice. So when we do practice questions with you, two things. One, we're always giving you the same format that they are, multiple choice. Let's just have you master that structure. And number two, most of our questions, as you'll see in the discussion board, are harder than you're actually going to see on the certification exam. I know that slows you down in the study process, but I would much rather make practice harder than the game, because if you're like me and most humans, when you get into the pressure of the game, taking the certification exam, you're just not going to perform quite as well for a number of reasons, obviously. And so I want you to have been playing at a higher level, a deeper level, a more challenging level before you actually are on the spot and taking your exam. Calculators, yeah, you're going to need one. Only about a handful of time value of money questions on this exam, believe it or not. You're going to do a lot of math, but it's simple math, and you really wouldn't even need a financial calculator to do a lot of the math on this test. But I don't want you to miss those 4, 5, 6 questions that are time value of money based, and you would only be guessing. It would take you way too long longhand to get to those answers. So on their candidate handbook, they have this, and on their website, here are the approved financial calculators. It's a great website. It's free. It's called tvmcalcs.com. TVM, like time value of money, tvmcalcs.com. It's a professor's website and it's free. It's really good. Sometimes it goes down and he doesn't get it back up. But look, if you need to spend an hour getting comfortable with a calculator, these are the two most popular I've got highlighted for you in our program. Any of them will do, but he's got 12 to 15 really common calculations that people need to do on their calculators with each of these calculators and the different keystrokes. So if you need a refresher, jump onto tvmcalcs.com, and spending an hour on that before you jump into our program will probably be a good thing for you. Okay, did they get those questions in, Kelly?
Nope, I think we're good to move on.
Okay. All right, we'll just keep powering along here. This is an important one. This is asynchronous. It's online. It's distance learning. You can see where I'm going with this. And it's not offered for academic credit or as part of a degree program at Yale, of course. Therefore, it has a different level of support. Now, support in terms of administrative, logistical, technical, like, you know, my videos look funny today or whatever. That's available regularly. Technical help actually is 24/7 through Canvas. But if you forgot your URL or your password or how much time do you have left, or, you know, remind me again about testing logistics, that's available anytime you need it from 8 to 5 Eastern, Monday through Friday. The discussion board is great, and I've got it set up and organized to be kind of like an FAQ. So as you can see there already, you're going to have a limit on your content questions in dealing with faculty. We have one faculty assigned at any given time. Right now, it's Ross Richardson, who works with you guys when you have questions on the content level. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But before you'd want to burn one of your 12 questions, you'd want to go to the discussion board for sure, and just do a Control-F search on your keyboard in that section area and see if anybody else is having questions about GRATs or QPERTs or CLTs versus CRTs or whatever it is. Chances are, after all these years, somebody did, and you can benefit greatly by the discussion. Now, I clean those out regularly, but I like to keep the deeper ones, even if they're 2 or 3 years old. I like to keep those up because I think they can help you. And I like the ones where we had good interaction and the explanation was really clear and helpful. I like to keep those up as well. But Suffice to say, if you did get through all of that and you're like, I even looked at the discussion board, but I still have a question on X or Y or Z, and Jim in the test prep, he clearly said this is mid to high probability of showing up on my exam, or it'd just be really helpful in my practice to know more about this. I want to go ahead and burn one of my lifelines, my 12 questions. Then you're going to reach out to Ross. You'll do that in email, so y'all can have a dialogue that's in writing, so you can save that for your notebook. If you're like me, 2 weeks later, I would probably forget what I asked Ross, let alone how he helped me get over that hurdle or that question or that challenge. So we want it to be in writing, and then he'll have a Zoom call with you if you need to have a follow-up in that regard. Now, another area in which you don't have any limit on questions is study plans and study strategy. If you're ever like in doubt, not sure if I'm really doing this efficiently, whatever, you just reach out. It'll probably be Ross, could be me, a phone call or a Zoom call, just to make sure you have a good sound game plan. So you don't even have to worry about that. You're just locking in and working your plan. Really, really important for a number of reasons. There's no limit to those. That being said, how did we get to the 12? I won't give you the long story. I will say this, that we beta tested in the early days how many questions, and we landed on 12. That based on the candidates we had in the program at the time, and that's worked out just fine. It's about 3% of our current candidates ask 12 questions. So yeah, I think we've got the number right. We could probably even move it down, but we're not going to. For now, we're going to just leave it right there. But I wanted you to be real clear on all of this. Some of you might be like, yeah, it makes me nervous. I really like to have heavy interaction, or at least regular ongoing interaction with faculty in a program like this. I get it. That may be your need. That may just be a preference, but that's important. And this would not be the program for you. It just wouldn't be a good fit. We're just not set up or priced to be able to do that in a program like this. Sorry about that, but I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page before you move forward. Okay. With that, great program instructors, great faculty. I already mentioned, I think, all of these gentlemen. You can read more about their bios and a handful of other instructors we have for you on our website as well. Look, we take this really, really seriously. This is not plug and play for us. We work this every single day. And on the test prep side and efficacy side, we probably measure too much. This is just a sampling of what we measure. I won't go through all of these. We're not perfect. We never will be. But we're trying to be the best we can on a regular basis. And that means regular updates, regular revisions. We do the tax updates every January, unless we haven't had that recently. But, you know, with Trump, we had 2 or 3 mid-year tax changes that were significant. We had to get in there and change the material kind of on the fly in that way. But January is usually our month, our normal month, if for no other reason. Think of all the cost of living adjustments that change, you know, every January 1st. All right, so this whole time we've just been trying to help you figure out if this is the right program for you, a little bit about, is CPWA the right certification for you? But in terms of the program itself at Yale, is flexibility important? How important? Customizing your learning plan, you should utilize all of the resources we give you, all the videos, the readings library, the discussion board is great, the practice questions, the test prep material, the mock exam. You should use all of it, but if you want a program that lets you kind of gravitate a little more and a little less to the different learning resources that meet your preferences, then I think we've got a nice setup for you. Definitely comprehensive coverage. Yeah, we've got high pass rates. Yeah, I think you're probably going to do a little more work in our program than others, but not just for pass rate. Hopefully you will see the benefit in your practice in exchange for that. But you do need the motivation and self-discipline. Look, Ross is going to be reaching out. I'm going to be reaching out. I reach out through the Canvas announcements to you and everybody else that entered the program in the month you started. I send those out every week for your first 4 or 5 months. Kevin sends you out emails at least every month. So there's a number of ways we're reaching out to just try to stay stay engaged with you in that way, but you still got to have the self-discipline to pull this off, because nobody's, like tying you to a chair and saying you got to get this done this day or this week. But look, if you're up for the challenge, we'd love to have you come join us in the Yale program and earn your CPWA through us if it's a good fit. How do you do it? Yeah, you just go through IWI's website and do the CPWA candidacy link. You can go through our website and click on that, but it's just going to take you to their website and you'll apply online, as I mentioned before, with them. All right, so here is the contact information for both Kelly. Questions on Yale School of Management, Executive Education, anything else in that regard, or the certifications in our certification programs at Yale, there you've got my information. And I think we have a little bit of time for Q&A, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we sure do. So you've just had a question come in. Does the test prep questions provide not only the answers, but also explanations to the right answers?
Yeah, I don't know how you do it not doing it that way, but I've heard that question enough time to make me think that, maybe not this certification, but, other programs out there don't have that. Now, at our course level, no, we don't give you that, because that's required, even though you get to take it as many times as you need to pass. We don't want to give you that because it's required. And even if we give you the solution set after you passed, we know that would get spread around, not by you, but maybe by somebody else. But for all of the questions in the test prep, and there are, we're coming up on 1,000 test prep questions in the CPWA test prep area. Every single one of them has solutions. Now, sometimes, not that often, but sometimes it's pretty simple. IRC, Internal Revenue Code section 72T says blah, blah, blah. And we were just testing you on the rule. So sometimes it's really simple like that, but sometimes it's a whole page long in terms of the explanation into why that answer is right and why some of the others are wrong. But great question. Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about the continuing ed requirements and the double dipping that is available if you have other certifications to maintain?
Yeah, good question. So like any certification, some designations are not this way, or charters, but certifications, you're going to have requirements going forward to keep using your marks. So like fees, I think it's a few $100s. It comes out on average a few $100s a year to maintain your CPWA marks with IWI, even though they bill you on an every other year cycle, although they change that sometimes and give you options on how you want to do that. But I think more to your point or question, it's certification continuing education credit requirement. It's 40 hours every 2 years for CPWA. Same thing on SEMA. I'm not sure what their RMA is. My guess is it would be the same. But anyway, 40 hours every 2 years. It's pretty broad. It's not completely broad, but it's pretty broad in terms of what that topic or content could be. You don't have to get it all through IWI. That's cool. And if you're like me and you have multiple certifications, and I've got other ones beyond this, you're going to double or triple or quadruple dip. And what I mean by that is IWI's got their requirements, CFP board's got theirs, other organizations that I've got certifications with have theirs. And most of them, not all, but most of them, including these two, will allow you to use one for the other. So I've got 40 hours for my CPWA every 2 years, 40 hours for my SEMA, and 30 hours every 2 years for my CFP. So that's what, 110 hours? I don't know. I probably do I probably do about 50 hours, probably no more than 60 hours in any 2 years, and knock all of the 110 hours out, because CFP doesn't care whether I'm using this conference hour or this questionnaire after a reading that I did to get an hour. They don't care if I'm using it for IWI, and IWI doesn't care if I'm also using it for CFP. But good question. Hopefully that helps.
So this is a little bit of a recap, but if someone is at the point where they're ready to start, and obviously the answer to this will vary a little bit based on what you've discussed in terms of study styles and how long it might, background preparation. But if you're kind of ready to go today, what would be your estimate for when someone could be ready to sit for the exam, average person?
Yeah, I would say 6 months. I think that's your starting point. Now, once you get into the program, you're going to see all kinds of guidance, best practices, definitely do's, and if it's me, don'ts, like don't do this or this. I haven't seen it all, I'm sure, but I've seen a lot that will help you guys be successful and things that will not help you. So you're going to follow that. And then you're just going to see, once you get to test prep, we even have 30, 60, and 90-day test prep schedules. Like if you wanted an hourly schedule, I don't know that anybody's probably ever done that all the way through, but they're good starting points for you, kind of per your question. If you don't know, take 1 month, 2 months to pass the course, and then take 2 months to study for the exam. That's 4 months. And if you get thrown off track a month or two, whatever, you're still at 6 months. That's the starting point. Some of you are going to be like, that was my starting point, but I want to speed this up. I guess maybe I'm smarter than I thought I was. And so I want to speed up. I want to go fast track. So you just speed it up. Some of you are going to be like, this is kind of a bit harder than I thought it was going to be. 6 months may be a push. Well, you're just going to slow it down. So you're going to start kind of where we give you guidance, and you just speed up or slow down based on your preferences.
Okay, that looks like about it for the moment. We do have a few minutes, so if anyone wants to throw out any more questions,
Yep.
anything generally, we're happy to stick around for a few minutes and answer.
Yep, go for it. Hopefully this has been helpful. I know I kind of went fast, but look, it's your time. And again, 100 to 200 hours, that's a big commitment from you guys. I want you to have a really good feel for our program. And hopefully this has given your intuition a chance to kind of to think about what you've already seen and read before to make a good decision. Again, if it feels like a good program and the curriculum's a match, I do think the certification body, there are only about 5 out there that I know and trust at the highest level. This is one of them. But if all that matches up, then yeah, we want you to come join us when the timing is right for you. But if it's not, or the certification is not right, then no, absolutely not. You should go find what is a better fit for you.
Okay, I think looks like we're about ready to wrap. So yeah, so just thanks a lot, Jim, for your time today, and thanks to everyone who joined us. Really appreciate all your thoughtful questions. And as Jim has mentioned, for more information, you can visit our website or reach out to us directly with any additional questions. Our contact information is there on the screen. We will, in the coming days, share the recording and the slides, so you'll have that information available to you. And yeah, we just want to say thanks again for spending your time with us, and enjoy the rest of your day.